class or something like that. We want to find out who's already doing it. We want to continue on. There are quite a few districts doing that as well. So that's our hope for the next step, for steps to be, for strategies to be pursued so that people are satisfied. People in many farms are satisfied. The learning is developed for their children is learning fits what they want and works for wherever the student wants to go. So to hurry up, finish out then, that is how the curriculum strategies are to develop. How the curriculum strategies in our minds came to this point, and hopefully in a couple of minutes, as I can finish up, we can then talk to you, with you rather, about how you'd like to see that done. Certainly would like to know from the many farms, faculty, and school officials here. So what is it that you're satisfied with? Caution us. Give us what things should we avoid as we suggest these things to others. So if you'll bear with us 5 more minutes, go ahead and finish out the last 5 tasks. As Matt suggested, and Harvey Root and Joe Martin as well, all of this revolves around law. All of this surrounds rules, regulations. Is the way of the world. So what we wanted to do was to go through the rules and regulations, figure out how to bring them around to work for programs for the schools, K-12. And as Matt was showing you with data he generated, we said to ourselves, it means that we need new information for the 21st century student, the 21st century school, the 21st century rules. How do we get data that can make everyone who lives in this universe of information? How will they understand? So how is that to be done, the new data? We begin with the data from 2010 that was in the accountability workbook, the nomination. Clearly, that data no longer applies to the same degree because we'll have 66 schools brought under rubrics of the tribe in curriculum, finance, governance, and human resources. And so that wasn't there in 2010 to consider. The second is that there are new standards of instruction that were not prevalent in 2010. Common Core, Arizona's curriculum, or Utah's. And then, of course, the Dine content standards that had just been suggested hadn't been written. They have unfolded since. Then a third thing that we're going to want to do with data, we're going to have to take tribal data, state data. We're going to have to find a way to integrate those two sets as the accountability workbook called for. Since 2010, there has been the establishment of the Navajo Educational Information Service, the NEIS. Their job is to do this region-wide, reservation-wide network of data sets. And then finally, the last point, we didn't know until we started this process, but there was a technique of reporting stores, schools. It's used by all, it's used by some. It's called safe harbor. And I don't know, I will ask, many farms does not use the safe harbor, does not report the safe harbor. Some schools do. There are data sets that you were given in your packets when you came. It shows all the schools in the Bureau of Indian Affairs system. And it shows how they report their AYPs. I'll give you an example why we have a new strategy of information gathering. In 2010, the accountability workbook reported something must be done because the pass rate of school buildings on the Navajo Nation is somewhere between 10 and 16%. Now, count the schools on that chart that you have, it's 41. And so if it went from 10 to 41, why didn't we know that? Why hasn't there been more said about it? The best we can do, call Bureau of Indian Affairs, BIE offices in Albuquerque. We got the statistics, we asked them. They said if a school district calls us and said we made AYP, log it in. Then we asked, well, put a star or an asterisk next to it. Find out if it's, did you make it on the numbers alone, or did you use safe harbor? They said we don't ask, we just report. And so we decided to do a little analysis, and here's how it works, the best we can find. If your rate of improvement is 10% better than the year before, you can declare that you passed. Doesn't mean you passed. It doesn't mean you met requirements. It means you're 10% better. So this is why math, that's how we call it. We call him Math Man. That's my nickname for him. Because he's made me think, what do numbers really mean? How do you work them around? It means that if you had a 3% pass rate that a school Matt showed you, you went up 0.3%, that's 10% improvement. It might mean 2 more kids pass. That's fair? That's good enough. So this is another reason, among all the reasons we gave you, you must know what the numbers are, so people are satisfied my kid is learning. Because what we heard from Dr. Vicente is that there are children from other districts around here being driven to this building. Is that right? People coming here from other places? And I don't think it's because you have the best basketball team in Arizona, although you might. There must be something going on. See why we came today? Man, we hope you'll talk to us in a minute. Tell us more. Why do people drive here? That's what we want to know. So that's one of the things we didn't know until June. Now we brought it out to say, if you make it on your own, you make it with something like this. So that was the safe harbor strategy. So we'll close. So what are some thoughts and recommendations about the operations, curriculum, policy? We want to do exactly what we're doing now, as Matt showed you. Hopefully the funding will work for that. To do outreach activities in all the EIE buildings. May not be able to go to every one of the 66. We're going to come to the regional centers in the coming year. One of the things is to gather information about the strengths and weaknesses of student and faculty performance. Schools will be asked to self-report. The best performing buildings will be organized with a special advisory group. We certainly would like to have many farms join that enterprise. There's so much going on here that's worth knowing. The second thing would be to do what we did yesterday, put it in Crown Point. Let us come to communities, community centers as much as we can. We also want to go to the border towns. Programs that we've been involved in, University of Northern Colorado, programs that work in the border towns. And Matt comes from the Central Consolidated Communities, Gallup, McKinley, Holbrook, Winslow, Flagstaff, all of those places that have perhaps the majority of the students. What to do about the border towns as well, because there's parents, students, public officials, and stakeholders in the border towns just as concerned, just as interested, and they may send their students into. I understand there's students from Gallup coming up to Newcomb to go to school now. I just heard about that. They'll drive them to the bus stop at the edge of the district, then they ride in. Is that how it's going? Yes. And their parents bring them all the way to the building, or they bring them to the bus stop? All right, so they can't ride the bus if they're not in the district? Is that right?
State local, but they because that the other school is not doing so, they drive the kids to the school.
Okay, all right, so they bring them 50 miles one way to go to Newcomb. And so the Newcomb numbers in the high school are going to go up too. And so all of a sudden you got a bunch of urban kids out of Gallup mixing with in a building of 350. Instead of the 1,200 that went to Gallup by. So, very interesting. Very interesting. So it's the reverse of leaving the reservation. We found that fascinating, how that needs to be addressed. So that's why the border towns is going to be looped in. Then the last step we want to take, we want to develop partnerships. One's already started. 3 state departments of education that serve the Navajo Nation. So you can build that trust with those schools like Gallup and the educational professionals in them about how this new school system can serve students who transfer between the schools. We've been told that 45% of all the students in a BIE in a given year transfer either into or out of BIE building. Don't quite know where they all go because there's not a follow-up. And then Arizona agreed with this, by the way, on December 8th, the day we made our presentation in Winter Rock. About this, we found out that Superintendent Huppenthal had worked with Doty to establish data sharing so that start having that interaction that we have been hoping to occur for all the states. Then the last of the suggestions, those of us, Drew, Martin, myself, all the people that work with that nominal teacher education consortium and tech, we're going to rethink ourselves. We're going to try to come up with new strategies for pre-service, training of a teacher, in service, the continuing education of a teacher. We want to develop graduate education opportunities. We asked Dr. Vicente, what's one of those reasons people are sending their kids from Chicago over here, up from Lee? He said dual language credits. You got to have more training to do dual language. The schools, the universities will not accept you as a teacher of dual credit, not dual language. Dual credit, college credit in high school. You can't get that approval unless you have more credits than just a basic bachelor's degree. And so there's a need for graduate education opportunities in all the disciplines. And I asked Dr. Vicente, well, what disciplines are those? She said, anyone that a teacher wants to do. Anything that can do a college course, special ed, history, geography. She said she's got his teacher who's going to do sociology starting in the fall. And then finally, we want to work with the administrators and faculty in this new school system. So that becomes one of the benefits of employment. Come to work in these buildings, you'll have access to this training. And finally, we want to encourage Dine to think about becoming teachers. Maybe that might be an outcome to result in this as well. So I do not want to say one day, because we're not saying goodbye. Right? But I do want to say hey. And I am told the young people say hakushi. The young people say that it's all good. It's been good, something like that. So hakushi. So see, he tries. Right? So I like to think that we've tried to get some ideas out to you about the journey of understanding we've taken as a team and a group of 14 that work with us. One of the people that work with us in curriculum is the Dean of Students at Newcomb High School, Katie Gilbert, and she taught 20 years math in Kirkland. She went down to Newcomb. I'm not going to say that all of it in Newcomb is her. I'm going to say it's interesting how if you put people in place who think it matters and get with it, it starts to happen. So we like to hope that we can now get some ideas from you as we take the journey here. Harvey, would you like to go ahead and orchestrate? We have a microphone as well. Let's go ahead.